Welcome back to the It's Too Easy podcast with the Lenny Brothers. This is Zach. I'm Jake. Getting back to college football week 14. Final week until conference championship games. It's going to be super interesting. I think there actually is the Army and Navy game next week, so not quite there yet. I've got a couple weeks till conference championship games. Excuse me. But yeah, it's going to be a super fun week. Got a really nice slate for you guys. A lot of rivalry games this weekend, so really looking forward to college football. It's been a blast this season. Haven't been as high as we've been in previous years, but still managed, I think, to hit around like 60 to 62% of our college football picks. So still sitting at a pretty good spot. Last week ended up really doing well. I think we were like 11-5 or 12-5, something along those lines. So we're just looking to keep this momentum rolling. Got a little bit of a smaller slate, but we've got a lot of rivalry games, so it's going to be a pretty fun one. We'll start with Ole Miss and Mississippi State. We got the Egg Bowl.
Egg Bowl.
Should be pretty fun. Lane Kiffin, I think, is kind of gearing up to get a big contract offer from Ole Miss as well. I know he's been offered $100 million, either at Florida or LSU. I can't remember which one. I think Ole Miss is going to have to pay the piper because Lane's been incredible as soon as he got there. And I like Ole Miss in this game. Ole Miss minus 6.5. I'm going to take it, buy it down from, I believe, where it's 7.5 or 9.5 right now. Sometimes when we take Ole Miss, they manage to not cover by like 1 or 2 points. So I'll just buy it down 3 and take Ole Miss minus 6.5 in this rivalry game. I think Lane's going to get a big win for this program. They're going to set themselves up potentially to make it to the college football playoffs. I believe they're in there somewhere right now. So this would definitely leave that spot right to them. And yeah, it's against Mississippi State, so it's their rivals. It'll probably be a banger of a game, but I think Ole Miss is going to be too much for them.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I feel like this matchup always goes low scoring. I think that could be the opposite this year. I think Ole Miss is going to go put up a ton of points this year. Mississippi State started the year very hot, playing really well, and they kind of just fell off since then. So I think Ole Miss should be able to cover 7. So I like buying it down to that 6.5 point line. Also, I do expect Ole Miss to offer Lane the bag, and I do think he'll be back at Ole Miss for the foreseeable future. This is his 4th year with 10 plus wins. Chance to make it 11 and stay in that top. I think they're 6th ranked right now. He won't have to rebuild in a really tough conference when he's already got the team and the program that he wants. So we'll see what happens, but I do think he'll stay.
Yeah. Right on. Move on. We got Utah and Kansas. Utah's 11.5 point favorites. Once again, I'm going to buy it down this time to 9.5. I think Utah's going to be the far better team here. I don't expect Kansas's offense to be able to do a whole lot against this Utah defense, and Utah will likely manage a way to score 30. So thinking like 35-14, 35-17, something along those lines. So I think buying it down to 9.5 will be a pretty safe play. You can probably take it at the 11.5 as well. I just felt that was a really weird number for this game. So I'll take Utah minus 9.5 and stick with it there. Go Utes.
Yeah, last week's game was insane. Utah was down 20 with like 10 minutes left in the game. End up taking the lead on a last minute touchdown with 45 seconds, something like that. Like I'd already kind of considered it chalked, and then next thing you know, I looked down and they were driving down 3. Good for them. They came back. They found a way. I think they're still ranked right at 12 now, so trying to keep themselves in the playoff picture. I do think that they're going to come out and annihilate this Kansas team. I was shocked to see that last week they gave up 490 rushing yards or something along those lines. It was like 13 a pop, considering their defense is usually one of the best rushing defenses in all of college football. Don't really know what was the difference maker there. I didn't watch that game. But I think Utah comes out, turns the tides. All Kansas can do is run it. I don't think that's going to happen again, so I think they cover 11.5.
Yeah, right on. I love that. Then we got another fun one, Iowa and Nebraska. I believe Iowa is 3.5 or 2.5 point favorites on the road here against Nebraska. Talked about it last week. Nebraska without Raiola has been a bit of a different team. First week, the quarterback looked good, and then they got absolutely stomped at Penn State, who had been on like a 5-game losing streak. And then all the Penn State players asked for their coach to get hired. So I thought that was pretty cool for Penn State. Got a little bit of a vibe back into that team. But I think Iowa is going to be the far better team here. I expect their defense to really show up in this game. Super defensive game. I don't know where the over-under's at, and we know we love the unders in the Iowa games, but I'm sure it's like 33 or 34 or something like that, so I won't touch that. But I do think Iowa's going to get it done, so I'll stick with Iowa on the money line.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Gronowski has been playing pretty solid for them coming from FCS. To an Iowa team, obviously having a good defense. Their offense has been pretty solid. Nebraska's been kind of Swiss cheese since Dylan went down, so I think Iowa should pull it off. I like them on the money line.
Yeah. Then we got Georgia and Georgia Tech. Another game that should be super fun because Georgia Tech does manage to play these top ranked teams really close. Um, I just, for whatever reason, I know Georgia's defense hasn't been all that great this year, but I see this being a more defensive game, and the over-under sits at 59.5 right now. I saw that, and I was just like, lick my lips a little bit. I'll end up buying it up to 62.5 just in case this is like a 32-28 game where it ends up going over by half a point. So I'll buy it up to 62.5 and take the under. But I'm not going to take a winner for this game because I know Georgia Tech plays these top-ranked teams a lot better than the other teams. And they end up losing some that they shouldn't. That's exactly what's happened again this year. I think they're going to play this Georgia team tough at home, and I think that the best play is going to end up being the under in this one.
My initial thought was I'm taking Georgia Tech plus 14.5. I kind of like them to win. That's probably not the case. However, I'm still torn. I'm kind of leaning on buying Georgia to 10. I feel like everyone's going to see the line like, wow, 14's a lot. Let's take Georgia Tech. So I think I'm going to buy Georgia down to 9.5. And I'm going to take Georgia to get it done. They got to stick in that top 4. They need a win if they want to have any chance at getting to that SEC championship game. And they're going to need a loss by, I believe, either A&M or Alabama. So we'll see how it goes, but I think that they should be able to get a cover of probably 2 scores. So I'm going to take it at 9.5.
Yeah, and speaking of that A&M loss, we got A&M going into UT, Texas this week. And we know Texas plays a whole lot better at home. I think that Arch has just been a different player at home. That defense really stands up and plays good ball when they're at home. I expect that crowd to be rocking. I'm thinking maybe of taking Texas on the money line. I'm going to see where the line's at before the game. But I'll stick with them at plus 3.5 right now. I think this is going to be a super back and forth game. Might buy it up to 4.5 to be honest, just because this could be like a 3-point game. And then A&M goes and gets a touchdown late, wins by 4. Could definitely see that happening, and that way they force Texas to drive the field. But yeah, I love Texas plus 3.5, plus 4.5 in that range. I think they have a very good shot to win this game and take Texas A&M out of the championship game and put Georgia in. So I'm very curious to kind of see where this one ends up. But I'm definitely rooting on Sark in Texas.
I feel like A&M should smack them, but I'm also like probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, A&M haters all year. I don't think they're anything special despite being 11-0. So I'm gonna take Texas plus 3.5 at home. I think that they should be able to run the ball, step up defensively, but I do think that the A&M defense is going to give Arch some fits. So it'll be an interesting game. If anything, I'd probably be leaning on an under. A lot of good defense, so hopefully some good rushing. I don't know how the passing game is going to go on either side, but I know that Marcel Reed likes to use his legs, and Arch is at his best when he's using his. So hopefully it's a fun one, and the Longhorns are able to cover.
Yep. Then we got another fun rivalry game. Just keeps going. We got Arizona at ASU. This is going to be a banger. These two teams, Arizona, I think, is ranked 20th or 25th, and then Arizona State's 20th or flip-flop, something along those lines. So it's a battle of these two teams, and they're within the 5 ranks of each other and ranked in the top 25. I think this is going to be an absolute banger of a game, even without Levitt. I'm just going to stick with the home team, and ASU is 3.5-point dogs at home, and I think they're going to show up and show out for their fans. I think that there is a chance that this Arizona offense gets going, and that could be major trouble for ASU if they end up getting blown out by their rivals at home. But rivalry games don't usually do that, and the home team usually ends up doing a little bit better, so I'll stick with ASU plus 3.5 here at home in this big rivalry game.
Yeah, super strange game. Lines even stranger, being I think a 1-point Arizona favorite right now. 48-point over under, so they don't even know what's coming. That's expecting a 24-24 match with a backup quarterback and an Arizona team that's been super hit and miss. Both 8-3. Nothing really on the line. They're both not making the playoffs, so I guess it's just pride in a rivalry. I do usually like the home team as well in the rivalry, so my lean would be to take a +3 for Arizona State, but my heart is with the Wildcats, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, right on. Then we got Oregon and Washington, another fun rivalry game. Oregon got a big win last week against SC. Ended up covering that line that we were looking for SC to keep them within. Yeah, for the most part, It really was one score game. Then Oregon just managed to squeak out a touchdown, drive down the field, 8 minutes off the clock in the fourth quarter, and then SC just kind of crumbled in the last few minutes. But yeah, it was a super fun game. SC couldn't run the ball. Oregon ran the ball really well. Proved to be the difference in that game. I think it helped a lot being in Autzen. I think that'll be a little bit of a different game next year because I think SC is going to get a lot of their guys back. But this game in Washington, Washington has been very good against very bad teams, and then when they reach some adversity, they really struggle. And they've had a couple of comeback wins against some of the bad teams as well. It's going to be a really tough place to play for Oregon, but we have to get this win. If we secure the 6th seed, I believe in the playoff, if we get this 5th or 6th seed, we'll have the road of playing either Miami or 12th ranked team. Yeah, Tulane, somebody like that in the first round. And then we would go on to play, I believe, Indiana or the 4th ranked team, which would be A&M or Georgia. So I think that that's going to be the best road for Oregon, and if that can kind of come true, I think that they could beat that Miami team, get some momentum, have a little bit of experience against a really good team, and then manage to make it to a final game, possibly a final game against Ohio State or Indiana. And I think that would be really fun to watch. So I'm very curious to kind of see how this Oregon team does against Washington. If we get a good win of over 10 points, I'd imagine that they're going to be pretty well set up to make a little run here in the playoffs. We're starting to hit it right at the right time. That win against SC was huge. So we'll see what happens against Washington, but I'm going to stick with the Ducks on the money line. Love my Ducks. Just don't really trust Will Stein a whole lot, so we'll see how the offense does. But yeah, I'll stick with them this week.
Kind of surprised after, Washington took you guys down a couple times on heartbreakers. So 7-point line is going to be interesting. Washington's been solid, like you said, against pretty bad teams. I think they're 8-3 though, so they're not horrible. Williams has been pretty solid, being a dual threat at quarterback for them this year. But I think Oregon's a much better team than them. So part of me is wanting to buy it to +10 just because it's that rivalry. It's kind of something that we've seen in the past. But I do think Oregon's going to get the win. I think this is a huge one, especially for Landon to come out after having lost in the past. So I'm going to take it at Oregon -4.
Yeah, right on like that. Then another big one, Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State, I don't think has beat Michigan in a couple years now.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game for them. Obviously, I don't think it has any implications on the playoff because they're the 1 seed. Even if they lose, they'll probably still be in the top 6. But Michigan isn't all that great this year. I believe there are only 2 losses at the end of the day, which is kind of crazy. But one of them was to SC, and I just don't expect Ohio State's defense to give up a whole lot to Michigan.
Was the other one Northwestern or something like that?
Yeah, something weird.
Yeah.
But Northwestern's had a couple of those weird games where they just managed to win by like a point or two. But yeah, I mean, this is a super interesting game. Ohio State's only 9.5-point favorites. Kind of scares me a little bit because I think that this is likely going to end up being a blowout. Like, I could see this being like 38-10 or 42-10. I just think that Ohio State's defense is going to overwhelm Michigan's offense. Even with it being in Michigan, I just don't see them really having a chance in this game. So I'll just take Ohio State at 6.5. I know it's kind of crazy to even buy it down from 9.5 because I said they're going to blow them out. But it's still a rivalry game. We'll see what happens, but I think Ohio State by a touchdown is a sure bet, so I'll stick with that.
It's in Ann Arbor too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take Michigan at +14. They've won 3 in a row. Until I see otherwise, I'm going to stick with that. Their second loss was to Oklahoma, by the way, who is right now ranked number 8 earlier in the season. They did pull it off against Northwestern by only 2. Very interesting how they've been playing. Pretty shaky against good defenses, so I don't expect them to put up a whole lot of points. But their defense has been pretty solid throughout the most part of the year. So in a big rivalry at home, I'm going to take them at +14.5.
Yeah, right on. Then we got Miami and Pitt. Not too much to say about this game. I just think Miami's going to be the better team. Their defense is going to force a couple turnovers, and they'll manage to win the game. Don't know how much it's going to be by, but they need to make the college football playoff, and I believe they're right there on the cusp at 11th right now. So they really need this win, and I'd imagine they're going to get it done at Pitt.
Yeah, they have to get this win. I don't believe they're making the ACC championship game unless they win this and SMU loses to Cal. However, they still got to win this game to have a chance. I know they're right on the verge of that 12 seed, and if they're going to want the bid without being in a bowl game, it's got to be a blowout. So I do think that they're going to cover. I believe it's a 6-point line against Pitt. Um, and I like it. I really don't like Pitt at all. I know their new quarterback's thrown for 404 games this year. Had another good game last week, going up 28-0 early against Georgia Tech on the road in the first quarter. Some turnovers to start that game, but their defense looked solid, at least to start it. And then they just had to carry out the lead the rest of the game. But I think Miami's a much better team, so I like the cover of 6.
Yeah, right on. Then we got Kentucky and Louisville. Yeah, once again, kind of been a Kentucky hater this year just because they've had to play a lot of tough SEC games. I'm going to do it again. Louisville is 7-4, I believe. I think they're going to be a lot better team in this game. I think they have Miller Moss still at quarterback. I think their offense is going to be able to fire on all cylinders, or at least in the passing game, and I think they'll be able to cover 2.5. So I'll stick with Louisville minus 2.5 here at home.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Kentucky's fighting for a bowl game, but I do think Louisville's the better team playing at home. And after getting smoked by my SMU Kevin Jennings guys, they need to bounce back. That was disgraceful, 38-6 or something along those lines. So Louisville's going to get it done at home against Kentucky.
Yes, sir. Then we got UCF and BYU. BYU 16.5 or 17.5 point favorites in this game. I'd imagine they'll probably cover that just because they've been so good at home this year. I'm going to buy it down to 13.5 just because it could end up being a 3.5 score game at 21-24, and then they put in the second stringers and say, let's save up for this first round of playoffs because we're going to have a big game. So I'm going to take BYU minus 13.5. I don't think they're going to have much trouble in this game. I think they're going to be able to exploit UCF on all sides of the ball, but especially with Bear Bachmeier at quarterback, I imagine they're going to run the ball really well. And even if they run the ball, it could make it a little bit of a closer game, less possessions. So I like BYU minus 13.5.
Yeah, Central Florida's been kind of buns this year. I think they're 5-6. BYU's been phenomenal and still in some way, I would say disrespected being the 11 seed at 10 or 11-1. Now, if you compare them to the two lost teams in front of them, I think they'd lose. But just off rank alone, they've been playing really well, especially at home. I think they're locked into the championship game unless they lose this somehow. So all they have to do is win. It doesn't have to be pretty. I do think it's going to be an ass kicking though. I think the Cougs are going to smoke them. I do like the cover of 16.5 even, but buying it down to 13 sounds great also. So either way, it's not going to be snowing. It's actually going to be a nice day. It says around 40 degrees out in Provo. So by the end of the night, maybe low 30s. So it'll be a cold one. I don't think Central Florida is going to be used to that. The only thing that scares me is Chase Roberts, I believe, is out, the star wide receiver for the Cougs. But LJ Martin should be able to keep it going on the ground.
Right on. Then last couple here on the slate, got LSU and Oklahoma. I believe Oklahoma is 9.5 or 10.5 point favorites here at home in this game. LSU obviously is a new coach, and they've been struggling the whole year. I expect Oklahoma's defense to be able to hold them again. LSU's offense just hasn't been a whole lot, and I think Nussmeier's draft stock is really dropping this year. So I think Oklahoma's going to get it done. They need a sure in to get into the playoff as well. I'll take a minus 6.5. I think they'll be able to cover a touchdown. Their defense has been solid, and expect more of the same this week at home.
Yeah, Garrett going into the year was the favorite or second favorite for the Heisman. He was expected to go number 1 or 2, potentially go play for his dad on the Saints next year. I wouldn't draft him at all. He's been terrible. With that said, I'm taking him to cover 11 points at Oklahoma. This is the biggest game of the year for him to end it off right, to kind of keep the momentum going after getting a big win for BK last week. Oklahoma's last chance at getting into the playoff as well. If they lose this, they're cooked. If they win it, they don't have a bowl game where they have to prove themselves, so they should be locked in. I think the LSU is going to test them, and so I like the cover of 11 points.
Yeah, right on. And then we got Vandy and Tennessee. This one, my big shocker of the week. I believe Tennessee is 2.5 or 3.5 point favorites at home in this game. After a big win last week against Florida, I do imagine that Tennessee will likely be ready to go in this game. But I love this Vandy team. I think they've been one of the most fun teams to watch in college football this year. I love Diego Pavia and the whole thing going on with Theo Vaughn, man. That's just hilarious. And I think that Vandy has a chance to upset in this game. So I'm going to take Vandy plus 3.5 here. I think it's going to be a pretty tight game. I expect their defense to be able to hold Tennessee up a little bit more than some of the others. So I think that as long as they can get a few things going offensively, it should be a really close game. Maybe even a Vandy win. So we'll see what happens.
Uh, I'm I'm expecting a Tennessee win. I hope Vandy can pull it off. I think that'd be incredible. I think their chances are honestly better right now, which is kind of weird to say at Tennessee with how many fans they have. I think it's 110,000 plus. They're actually worse at home this year. This Tennessee team is, which kind of surprised me. I know I was looking at the competition; it's been a little more difficult at home, including Georgia and a couple other teams. Um, I'm going to take Tennessee to get the win. I think this will be huge for them. I think getting to 9-3. I believe they're right around the 18-19 rank right now. So I don't think they'll have any chance at making that top 12, but they'll probably be just on the outside cusp of it. Vandy's also playing for a chance at the playoff themselves. They're ranked 14 right now, and they need a huge win. So I'll be rooting for them, but I am going to take Tennessee on the money line at home.
Yeah, right on. That'll be a huge 14 versus 18, I believe. I think SC's we're sitting at 19 right now, so that'll be a fun one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got Virginia Tech and Virginia. Not too much to say. Virginia Tech, I believe, has James Franklin coming in next year. Be interesting to see kind of who he can recruit. Apparently, they're already getting a bunch of 4-stars, so hopefully they'll be a lot better next year. This year, Virginia's at home. I think they're the better team. I'm just going to take Virginia minus 6.5. I kind of secretly love Virginia. After not knowing really what they were about the first few games, ended up winning like 2 overtime games in a row, just showing a lot of grit. And I think in this rivalry game at home, they're going to get a lot going, and I'd imagine they'll be able to cover a touchdown.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's been kind of bad. I think they covered 17.5, lost by 17 against Miami last week at home. I kind of feel like Virginia's not going to be in this ACC championship game. And the only way for that to happen is if Virginia Tech beats them. So I'm going to take Virginia Tech to cover. I'm going to take it at plus 10. I don't like it. I think Virginia Tech is terrible. But I really have a hard time seeing Virginia in the championship game. I feel like Miami might have a chance. And then obviously I love SMU. And if they can pull it off against Cal, then they'll probably lock themselves in, assuming that Miami is able to upset Pitt. So it could be a whole rearranging if Virginia goes down, which I think would make it a lot more interesting. So I like Virginia Tech at plus 10.5. I might also sprinkle the money line at plus 290.
Right on. Then we got Penn State and Rutgers. I wasn't initially interested in this game, and then the more we talked about it, I remembered, oh yeah, Penn State absolutely rocked Nebraska last week. So I believe that Penn State's like 12.5 point favorites, something along those lines. I'll buy it down to 9.5. I think Penn State's going to get the win here on the road. They're definitely the much better team than Rutgers. I'd imagine they'll be able to run the ball right. And their defense is still their defense. They just had some hiccups so far this season. I imagine they'll get it together. And these guys love playing under this new coach. So hopefully they'll get a big win here, and then they'll hire him. I think he's a good fit for that program. So I'll stick with Penn State minus 9.5 here on the road.
Yeah, not only that, it's the Nittany Lions' chance at a playoff game getting to 6-6. So I think that they're going to come
Game,
out.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah, bowl game at 6-6. They need it. They got to get there. Athan Kaliak-Manis, you heard me talk about him a few years ago with Minnesota as a quarterback, and he's a turnover machine. He's the quarterback right now at Rutgers. I expect him to throw 2 to 3 picks against this really good Penn State defense. And like you said, they're able to run the ball effectively. They should be able to punch it in. I think they should be able to cover 10, probably at 12 or wherever that line is as well.
Yeah. And then the final game on the slate that you loved, I didn't really think about it a whole lot because I thought the line was a little bit trappy. We got Wisconsin at Minnesota. Wisconsin did manage to get a big win last week. I can't remember who they played. It was a decent team. But yeah, Wisconsin managed to get Illinois managed to kind of get Illinois out of the top 25 rankings. And yeah, that was a big win for them. They're going into Minnesota. They're 1.5-point dogs. Yeah, I don't really have a big read on this game, so I'll just stick with you and take Minnesota on the money line. I think they're probably going to end up being the better team, but with the way Wisconsin played last week, who knows kind of how they're going to look. So, yeah, let's stick with Minnesota on the money line.
Yeah, it was always the Gophers. They're at home. We like the Gophers. We've liked them for a few years, even when Athan was there, who's a turnover machine I just mentioned. I really like their running back, Darius Taylor, and he's been splitting carries this year with a new guy who actually kind of took his role. But they're always able to run the ball effectively. Don't know how well that'll be against a good Wisconsin front, but even so, they've kind of been cheeks throughout the year. I was on Illinois last week for the first time in a while. I hate Luke Altmaier, so I was glad to see him lose. I think Minnesota at home should be able to take care of business because Wisconsin's really not that good. So I like it. I actually love it a lot. So it's probably one of my favorite plays of the week. I'm glad that we're going to be ending it there.
Yeah, right on. Yep. So that'll wrap it up for the final week of the regular season of college football, other than that Army-Navy game. Looking forward to seeing kind of how this conference championships start to stack up. We'll see kind of how it affects the CFP going forward, but we're really getting to closure here, and we're going to see who these top 12 teams are. Looking forward to it. It's going to be good fun. If you've enjoyed our videos throughout the year for college football as well, make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you guys would like to see more. In the off season, we're going to be busy, obviously, with work and life and stuff, but definitely want to find some other things to get involved in. I've been watching a lot more hockey myself lately. It's been a lot of fun to watch. The Sharks are managing to get on a big run, so looking forward to watching them more on a nightly basis. But yeah, we're going to need something to do, and I think we definitely want to keep the podcast going. So give us some ideas on what you guys would like to see. We'll keep that going forward. Maybe I'll get back into some UFC. That would be super fun as well. So yeah, until conference championship games, we may not see you next week, but we'll probably see you the following week before the conference championship games, so we can go through those. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the videos. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.